not all hypnotherapy is created equal because there's certain categories of it. Let's talk a little bit about that and explain what the difference is between coming to someone like you who can do what you do and what other people are doing.
Most people get hung up around, what they see in stage antics, because the stage hypnotist needs to create the illusion that none of these people are in my power. They have to create the illusion of that, just the same as a stage magician has to create the illusion that rabbits come out of hats and pigeons come out of thin air and money comes out of your ear, right?
Dang, I thought you were going to pull some out.
I know, I was hoping I could do that.
All right. Stage.
Yeah, so a stage hypnotist is a hypnotist, or you can get a certification as a master hypnotist. That's simply where a person learns how to hypnotize somebody else and has them go down into a level of trance that we just talked about.
Yeah, what stage would you say you were in? Like daydreaming, or which of those stages are hypnotists working in?
Those people are normally in the 4th level of hypnosis down, which is called somnambulism.
Okay.
And a natural somnambulist in the dictionary definition is a sleepwalker.
Okay.
So these people are normally walking around in a chronic state of trance anyway. And they come up and they want to be part of the show, or they self-select themselves because they want to see what it's like to get the applause or play along. And actually it gives people an excuse to get up and act fun and silly because, hey, I'm hypnotized, I can do
Not
whatever.
my fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they can have fun with it.
And what's amazing, what I've learned from you, is that the stage hypnotist knows how to recognize those people, because those are the ones who are going to give him the best results,
Right.
or her, and pull them up out of the crowd, and those are the ones they bring in.
For the most part, that's who they are. And when they come into the clinic here, we don't necessarily have to hypnotize them because we're pretty much already in trance. We de-hypnotize them.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we do really about as much de-hypnosis as we do hypnosis.
How do people live in that state?
Well, there's more and more people doing that all the time. I like to say that we've raised 2 generations of what I call adrenaline junkies.
Okay.
There are kids that have been raised with all of the media stimulation, all of the video gaming, those types of things, and it's actually had people stay locked into their imagination, if you will. And a natural somnambulist is a person who basically in their mind is stuck in their imagination.
Okay.
So they're constantly, everything's a big deal, anything that somebody does is blown out of proportion. They allow everybody's opinion to mean more to them than their own. There's some characteristics around that, and there's also physical signs of trance. When we have them relax in the chair, they'll demonstrate some physical signs that also demonstrate that they're in that state. So we're able to identify that and help them and actually teach them how to get conscious, where they're more in control of their own lives.
Now the next level, as far as what people can learn to do with hypnosis, would be suggestion.
Yes.
And what's that?
Okay, suggestion hypnotherapy is where, and that's about 85% of what most people are doing out there that's called hypnotherapy.
Okay.
What that does is that we're all acting out of our most predominant thought. Our most predominant thought around any given thing is what drives our behavior, okay? So conscious mind, subconscious mind, we have this predominant thought that's lodged there. And as the thought is lodged at this level, people will have them, a hypnotherapist will have them go into trance, get trance access to the subconscious, and then normally what it does is it overlays the existing predominant thought with a new predominant thought.
Okay.
That's what affirmations are all about, autosuggestions, metaphor, story scripts, guided imagery, are all about replacing if you can, but generally what happens is you get an overlay. Does that make sense?
That's why you can buy a tape and do it at home, right?
Yeah. So as long as you're listening to the tape and you keep that as your most predominant thought at that point, then you will make those changes accordingly. But the problem is if the underlying original fixed idea or belief system is still in place, even though you've overlaid it and you're now acting out in a new way, if you receive a stimulus back that's similar to what happened in the original belief and it's still intact, then that becomes a more predominant thought again, and people go back and act that out again. It undoes it.
You're back at square one.
So now you're back at square one again. And so some people have been to hypnotherapy, as they call it, and they've gotten results for a while, and they say, well, yeah, it worked for like 3 or 4 months. And then it just kind of quit. Well, what happens is they had a new stimulus that reactivated the underlying belief. That became the most predominant belief again, and now they act out again with what they did before. It's kind of what happens in yo-yo dieting kind of thing.
And as you mentioned, you said that's like 80% of what people are doing out there and calling hypnotherapy, but it is not necessarily the fullness that is hypnotherapy here and what it's capable of doing. And that's the clinical hypnotherapy, and that's where it's really cool.
Yeah, in clinical hypnotherapy, we're doing what we would call an age regression and different Gestalt techniques and so on. What that does is, again, gives us access to the subconscious mind, but now we have processes to go back and find out what is that original belief. And we want to go down and we want to destructure, reframe, alter the perception of those memories, if you will, and clean out the weeds of the garden of our mind, we call it sometimes. So we want to go ahead and pull all these weeds out first. So we get all the weeds cleaned out, and now we want to use suggestion, hypnotherapy, and so on to implant those new predominant thoughts
At that level.
At that level, where they're no longer in conflict with existing beliefs. Now it becomes more permanent, as you like to say, because there's not this dual structure still in place for the same behavior. We've weeded out the old one, we've implanted the new one, and now people will act out of that, and that becomes more permanent.
This leads me to talking a little bit about you and why you're different here at the Certified Hypnotherapy Training School.
Okay.
Because, like we said, there are people who are doing hypnotherapy, so perhaps you have had a chance with one of these tapes and you're like, oh gosh, it didn't help, I didn't lose a pound, I didn't quit smoking, or I didn't feel that much better, or you've actually gone to someone like you mentioned and a few months down the road, those behaviors are back. It is because they are not doing it at the level that you do. You take it even a step further, which is where you at the Certified Hypnotherapy Training School and being Dennis Parker and doing this for the last 25 plus years, you have discovered your own set of protocols. It is what makes you unique, and it's called positive mind management.